This video was brought to you by LogRocket, the front-end performance monitor that records videos of user sessions along with logs and network data, surfacing problems and revealing the root cause of every bug. Try it today at logrocket.com/YT.
Hey everybody, my name is Bryce Ayers. I'm a full-stack software engineer specializing in open source software. And today we're going to be looking at a library called hookrouter. So what is hookrouter? Hookrouter is a popular alternative to the very popular routing library for React, React Router DOM. So this is an alternative that came out when hooks were made available in React. As you can see from some of the documentation here, if you look down, basically what it does, it uses pattern matching, or basically an object matches on the string, which then returns a function, which then returns a React component. So you can use this for your routing library, and then you can see down here they have a simple example where they use the useRoutes hook that comes from the hookrouter library, and then they return the route result, or they can return a not found component. So very similar in a sense to the basic concepts of React Router DOM, just done a little bit differently. For this tutorial and to follow along, you'll need to have Node.js installed. I recommend the long-term support version, 12.16.2, but anything relatively close should work. That should also come with npm and npx, which I'll use here in a second. I'll show you. Also, I'll be using Visual Studio Code. Feel free to download that or use whatever your favorite editor is. And then to start a project, I'll be using Facebook's Create React App project to go ahead and bootstrap the project. So if you see down here, if you have Node.js installed, which comes with npm, you should have npx. So we can just type npx create react app and then my app. So let's go ahead and get started here. So if you have any issues running npx create react app, we'll say hook router tut. If that doesn't work for you, double check the version of Node.js you're on. I'm using, let's see which one I'm using. 12.7, npm, and 6.11.3 for npm. So I'm going to go ahead and type npx create react app hookrouter tut, and you could also, if npx doesn't work for you, you can install with npm init react app my app. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And there we go. Perfect. And if you don't have yarn installed, type npm install-g yarn, and then I'll install yarn for you. Yarn just an alternative to npm, or you can use the same commands, run npm start, npm build. So let's go ahead and cd into our project. Perfect. And I'll just type code dot, and that should open up Visual Studio Code. Otherwise, you can manually open it up. And I'll just bring up the terminal here. So that way we can see our project running right here. Perfect. So let me make this a little bigger here so you can see everything. So if we go into source, and you'll see a couple of files. You'll see this app.js file. This is where we'll mainly be working. Let me zoom in on this for you, so you can see that. It's mainly where we'll be working. This is kind of where our project inits. So if you see from index here, it basically bootstraps the app, and app is the main component that gets loaded. Now, this is a big part that I got stuck on for a little bit. So apparently React.StrictMode does not work with hookrouter. So go ahead and remove this to get started, and put a comma there and save that. Now we should be on our way. Now, one command I'm going to type is yarn add, type hookrouter. We go back over to hookrouter, just double check their page. Should be, yep, hookrouter is the package you want to install. And make sure it's tested with React 16.8.1 and upwards, which we should be using at least that. You can also run the command npm install --save hookrouter if you're using npm. Perfect. So that's all installed. And if we type yarn start or npm start. For those of you that are running React in production, just want to give you a heads up that this video is sponsored by LogRocket. LogRocket is the front-end application monitoring solution that allows you to see why your bugs are happening. And not just that the bugs are happening, and not just that your users are experiencing them, but you'll get to experience them just like your users are. It even shows your Redux store, it services performance problems, it shows your users' network activity, shows their console logs, their errors, and works in just about any front-end platform that you can imagine. So check out LogRocket at the link in the top right of the video and get 14 days for free. Go localhost 3000. And perfect. So there's our app running in the browser. But now we want to add a hook router in there. So let's go into app.js. We're going to make a couple changes here. I'm going to gut a lot of this stuff from here. We don't need this. And I don't think we need any of this here. Let's put it as a diff for now. And we go back over, it should refresh. We just see the word test. Perfect. So that looks like that's working. I'm going to go ahead and create two folders here. Make one called components. And I'll make another folder called pages. Now in my components, I'm just going to create a couple of quick components here. Let me make a file called wrapper.jsx. Make another file called page.jsx. And these will just be wrapper components around our pages, just to kind of help stylize it a little bit so it looks a little bit better. And another one called navbar.jsx. Perfect. So let's work on our navbar real quick. And we want to import React from React. Kind of the basic thing you got to do. And we'll export a constant called navbar. These are arrow functions. And here we'll just do a return statement. And we'll return a div. We want h1. We'll say my website. And let's see. Then we want another div here. And I'll just give this some style here. I'm just going to paste this in to save some time. So all it's saying is we're going to display flex, the navbar items here. Justify content space around, we'll space things out, give it a little padding, and we'll give a little border on the bottom. So no real need to worry about that. This is just for some styling capabilities. Now from here, we want to add in our links. Normally, in like a normal website, you'd have an anchor link like that, href equals, something like that. But we're not going to do that. We're going to actually use the anchor link, or React Router DOM, it's called link as the component. But this is called A for anchor from the hook router library. So this will be our first import we have. So A from hook router. And if we come down here, type A href equals, type slash. That'll be our home link. Just gonna copy this down here. And we'll have an about. Call this one contact. And actually on this one, we're gonna pass a parameter in there. So we'll type, I'm just gonna type 1, 2, 3, 4 for now. So we'll see how that works. Let's go to our page component. So it's just a little setup for our website here. Import React from React. We're going to export a const called page. And we just want to take in a title and children. And down here, we'll just return. And it'll be a div. I just want to put some inline styles here. I'll just say text align left, Give it a margin of 20 pixels. And we'll have an H2. We'll render our title that we pass into the component. And then here, we'll render children. So that'll be all for that component. And then for our wrapper, it's basically just some styles here. So import React from React and export const wrapper. And again, we'll have children. And we're just going to return a div, put the children there. And again, we got some styles we need to drop in here. Just to save time, I'm just going to paste those in there. So you can see them all there. Nothing crazy. We're just going to set a width, a height, give it a margin, tell everything to center up the text, and give it a little border. Oops. Perfect. So now if we go back to our app.js, all it says is test right now. So that's not really what we want. What we want to do is actually render out our components that we created. So call this wrapper. And I don't know if you saw that auto imported there from our components. And then inside a wrapper, we want to put our Navbar, which that got auto imported, and that's self-closing. And that should be it for now. Let's check our page. Perfect. So we see our stuff, it's set up. Let me see if there's any other styles in there we needed.
Hey, are you tired of recreating bugs in your React apps? If so, click on any of the links in the top right of this video to get a free trial of LogRocket. LogRocket is a React monitoring solution that helps you track Redux state, automatically surface JavaScript errors, and monitor slow network requests and component load times. Enjoy the rest of the video.
Looks like this didn't render right. Let me double check here. Oh, there's the error. Type style twice. Probably want to paste it. There we go. That looks a lot better. So we have a home, about, contact, but they're not going to work right now. You see it changing up in the navbar here. That looks good, but it's not actually rendering anything different. And that's because we need to go back to our app.js file. And here's where we actually need to render out the different pages. So similar to React Router DOM, you'd come in here and have a switch and you'd render out the router and everything else. So we'll do something similar here, but first let's create some routes. We'll declare our routes. And we'll have our base route. And we just want to render there. Type home. Which we haven't created this component yet, but we will in a second. We'll have about. We'll have contact. Just like that. And in the about page, what we're going to do is we're going to have some subcomponents there. So what we're going to do is put an asterisk saying there's more routes to follow. And on contact, you remember we put 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to put name here, which will be a variable essentially that gets passed, a parameter that would come in. So normally this would be like an ID. So if you had people and you had a person's ID, you could put it there and then render it into the component. So then it'll get passed in. We'll say name and name will get passed along. Perfect. So then what we can do down here is we can say const, we'll say match equals useRoutes. And we can pass it our routes up here. And where does that useRoutes hook come from? Well, we can type useRoutes from hookrouter. Oops, spelled that wrong. There we go. And then here, what we can do is we can say render match. But what if one of these isn't available? Then what do we render? We'll say not found, which will be a component we'll create. So you'll see we'll get some errors: home, about, contact, not found, not defined. So let's go ahead and create some pages real quick to get started. Let's create our, call it home.jsx. Create another file called about.jsx. New file called contact.jsx. And let's create another page called notfound.jsx, which will be our default to render in case something doesn't match one of the routes. So let's go back to home. And from here, I can type import, make sure it's big enough to see there. Import React from React. And here we made that page component, if you remember. You can import page. You go export const home. And we can just return a page component. We'll pass it a title. We'll say home. Just type home page. Be all we'll render out for now. So I'm just going to copy this over. Just change the name. And I'm just using Command D to multi-select there. This is contact. Actually go back. All right, let's go back to app.js now that we have our pages. Import home, about, contact, and not found. All right, let's check it out. So we have our home page, we have our about page, and we have our contact page. Everything seems to be working. And what if we went to some other page that was whatever? That doesn't match one of our routes, so we get a not found page. So that looks pretty good so far. So what about some more complicated cases? So in the about page, we mentioned we're going to have more routes that follow on. And so if we go back over to about, let's see here. We can do a little more on this page here. Let's create some routes. So let's say we want we'll do just like we did before. Say /me. Let's go to make that go to we'll render a component called about me, which we haven't created yet, but we will. Oops. Got to put the parentheses there. So we have me, so we have cat, and we'll have dog. Say about my cat, about my dog. So we'll have to go and create those components. So let's do that now. Say about me.jsx, about my cat.jsx, and we'll make another one called about my dog.jsx. Perfect. So if I go into about me, I'm going to import React from React, just like we normally do. Say export const about me equals, and we'll just return a div, and we'll have a paragraph tag. Let's say about me component. Another paragraph tag, and let's use our auto import that from hookrouter up there. You should see that pop up. Type href, just like we kind of would a normal anchor. And this will say contact. There we go. So I have that. Let's go to about my cat. Just import React from React. We'll just make this a simple component here. Nothing fancy to render here. And we'll type a div. We'll just say about my cat component. Save that. We'll just come to about my dog here. Close that there. Perfect. So now go back over to about, because you see we still have some errors here. So we need to import these pages. So import about my cat and my dog. So we save that. So we have this routes variable, but we haven't done anything with it yet. So what we need to do is do what we did before, where we use that useRoutes hook. So we'll say const, and we can say match equals useRoutes. Make sure that auto imports there, or you can manually type it in from hookrouter. And we're going to pass it our routes we defined right there. And now if we come down here, what we can do is we can say, let's return our match, or we can return something really simple. Instead of having like a not found page, we can say basic about page, or you could return your not found, whatever you wanted to do. So we check that out, about page, basic about page, because it didn't match anything, it's just about. But if we went to like about/me, then you'd see my page come up, and I have a link here that takes me over to this page. But you see on the contact page, we haven't done anything yet. So I wanted to say contact, whatever the name is that comes in there. So let's go ahead and do a little more work here. We want to render, let's go back to about. And so we want to be able to change through these pages here. So I probably need to create a couple links. So let me come in here, and what I will do is create a div. Just add some quick styles to it. And we'll display, we'll say flex, margin bottom, we'll say 20 pixels. Perfect. Now what I'm going to do, let's do a span, just so I can put some spacing between these. I'll need this. So style, these styles are completely optional, just to kind of make it look a little nicer, kind of highlight how it could be a real website, even though it's just a demonstration. We'll use that import here, auto import. If you see, yep, useRoutes and A for the anchor component, href, and I will type in, for this one, we want to go to the about me page. And so I can say about / me, close that off. Can do that. So I can do a couple of these here. And the last one, I just get rid of the span. I don't need the styling there. Actually, I guess it doesn't matter. I'll just type cat, dog, and about my dog. If I save that, come back over, now we have our about page, and you see what's happening. We have the div, it's display flex, so everything's kind of lining up to the right there. And then we have all these spans, which basically we put a wrap it around just so we can put some buffer to the right here of 20 pixels. Oops, let's see, go back here. And then what we rendered was a link to our page. So we have to about me, about my cat, about my dog, about me. And you can have a default kind of landing page, which is just our default component when none of the routes match.
Hey, it's me again. Do you hate wasting time recreating bugs in your apps? If so, click on any of the links in the top right of this video to get a free trial of LogRocket. LogRocket is a front-end application monitoring solution that helps you debug issues faster, identify performance problems, and create better user experiences. Enjoy the rest of the video.
But I think we could easily just change it to not found if we wanted to. So come back over, we go to not found, if you just went to that. But instead, let's change it back. We'll say pick a page. There we go. So everything seems to be working pretty good. And I think the last thing we want to touch base on was when we go to the About Me page, I have this link to contact Bryce, which if you look in the far bottom left, you can see it's going to contact/Bryce. You can see up here, but we're not actually doing anything with that parameter just yet. So let's go over to the contact page. And in here, now we have this parameter, if you remember, from app.js. In our route here, we have this parameter coming in called name, denoted by the colon. And it gets passed in, which this is just shorthand for this, which is unnecessary when using destructuring like this. So pass in name, the name gets passed into the component, and so there's a variable coming in called name, and you can pass in other stuff if you wanted to as well there. So if we go back over to contact, we have name, and we could say, make a new paragraph here. Let's put this as a paragraph tag. And we can do hello name. And if I go back over here, now you see hello Bryce. Type something else, hello Rick, and whatever you type in there would be rendered. So now when we come back and we say about me, oh, go to my contact page, you type Bryce and all the information is there. So you can make that more sophisticated if you wanted to, and actually pull in the information maybe from an API or something like that. If it was an ID of the person you were passing in on render this page, you could fetch their personal information and then render in their email address and phone number and all that and make it a little more dynamic. But that's the gist. There's a lot more stuff you can do. I recommend checking out the documentation. It's very, very thorough. If you go on their website, go through the README, click here on the Found Me. And if you look through, it's just an unbelievable amount of stuff they have. Server-side rendering, setting the window title dynamically, redirects, lots of different stuff you can do, which is out of the scope of this video. But if you have any questions, please let me know. I'm more than happy to answer. Thanks for watching. Take care.